Sandra Jones was the pride of her family. She was the daughter every parent wished for, obedient, intelligent, and deeply rooted in the Christian values her parents instilled in her. Her father, Professor Jude Jones, was a well-respected academic, known for his unwavering integrity. Her mother, Mrs. Kate Jones, was a devoted teacher who believed education and discipline could shape any child into a model citizen. Sandra grew up in a structured home where morning devotions were mandatory, Sunday services were never skipped, and good morals were non-negotiable. And for years, Sandra lived up to those expectations. She excelled in school, never missed a church program, and was the model student every teacher praised. She was loved by her younger siblings, admired by her peers, and trusted by her parents. When she received admission into Royal Crest High School, an elite boarding school, her parents had no worries. She's different, they told relatives. Sandra knows her values. But high school was a world of its own, a place where choices weren't just taught but tested. And in the corridors of Royal Crest, temptations lurked in the most unexpected places. Sandra had no idea that before long, she would become a stranger to herself. Sandra had been warned about bad company. Her mother often said, the friends you choose will either lift you or sink you. But at Royal Crest, making the right friends wasn't easy. For the first few months, she kept to herself, focusing on her studies. But that changed when she met Jessica, a girl who seemed to live life on her own terms. Jessica was everything Sandra was not: bold, rebellious, and untamed. She wore designer sneakers, had the newest smartphones, and spoke with a confidence that made teachers hesitate before punishing her. She had connections, senior boys, school authorities, even outsiders. Sandra, she said one afternoon, you need to stop acting like a nun. Life is happening, and you're missing it. Sandra laughed nervously. I'm fine, Jess. I just like to focus on my studies. Jessica rolled her eyes. You can be smart and still have fun. Or do you enjoy being invisible? That last sentence struck a nerve. Sandra had never thought of herself as invisible, but she had to admit, Jessica had a certain power. She commanded attention, walked into a room, and owned it. For the first time, Sandra felt something she never had before: envy. That night, when Jessica invited her to a secret girls' gathering, Sandra hesitated but eventually agreed. It was just a harmless get-together in the dormitory, she told herself. But it was more than that. Inside Jessica's locker was an assortment of things Sandra had never seen before: makeup, fancy dresses, perfume, and bottles of alcohol. Sandra's heartbeat quickened. Jess, where did you get all this? Jessica grinned. Connections, babe. Try this. She handed Sandra a small cup filled with something golden and strong smelling. Sandra hesitated. The voice in her head screamed no, but Jessica's eyes watched her expectantly. Everyone in the room was staring. Sandra took a sip. It burned her throat, but she swallowed, pretending it was nothing. Jessica clapped. Now you're part of the family. Sandra didn't know it then, but that sip was her first step down a road she would one day regret. Sandra had always been honest. But now, lies came easier than expected. When her mother called and asked how she was doing, she replied, "Fine, Mommy," even though she had just snuck out to a late-night gathering. When her father asked about her studies, she assured him, "I'm still top of my class," even though her grades were slipping. And when she looked in the mirror, she convinced herself she was still the same girl. But she wasn't. The small compromises became bigger. The drinks at secret gatherings turned into sneaking out of school. The harmless fun became dangerous games. Then she met Tony. Tony was everything her parents feared: older, charming, and filled with empty promises. He wasn't a student but had access to the school. Jessica introduced them, and within days, Tony had a way of making Sandra feel special. "You're too smart to just be a schoolgirl," he told her. "You deserve more." More. That was the word that undid her. She wanted more, the power Jessica had, the confidence Tony had, the freedom she had never tasted. So when Tony invited her to a party outside the school, she didn't hesitate. But that night would be the beginning of her worst nightmare. The party was nothing like Sandra expected. It wasn't just fun, it was wild. Loud music, reckless dancing, older men with hungry eyes. Sandra felt a shiver of doubt. "Tony, maybe we shouldn't be here." Tony laughed, handing her a drink. "Relax. You trust me, right?" She did. So she drank. And drank. And when the room began to spin, she realized, too late, that she had made a mistake. The last thing she remembered was Tony whispering, "Don't worry, I'll take care of you." Then, darkness. The next morning, she woke up in a stranger's apartment with a splitting headache and a sick feeling in her stomach. Something was wrong. And when she saw the messages on her phone, missed calls from her mother, threats from Jessica, and a picture of her unconscious self in Tony's arms, she knew. She had crossed a line she could never uncross. Sandra's life unraveled. The picture spread through school. Whispers followed her everywhere. Jessica turned against her. "You embarrassed me," she spat. "Now, everyone thinks you're just another desperate girl." Tony was gone. Her grades collapsed. And then, the final blow, her father found out. Professor Jude didn't shout. He didn't hit her. He simply looked at her and said, "Who are you?" That question shattered her. For the first time, Sandra saw the full weight of her choices. She wasn't the brilliant daughter her parents had raised. She wasn't the girl who once had dreams. She was lost. But was it too late to be found? Sandra wanted to disappear. She wanted to run, hide, erase her mistakes. But no one could run from themselves. One evening, her father placed a Bible on her table. No lectures, no scolding. Just a simple gesture. Curious, she opened it. It fell to Luke 15, the parable of the prodigal son. The words pierced her soul. But while he was still a long way off, his father saw him and was filled with compassion. Could she still be forgiven? That night, she broke down. The journey back wasn't easy, but it began with one step, choosing to change. Thank you for watching. Encourage us by subscribing to our YouTube channel Lead Tales for more interesting stories.